Sunroof top, digging the scene with the gangster link, with gangster white wall. TV is in the back, and you may not have a car at all.
So we're out here today at the Lakeview East Festival of the Arts. This is their 15th annual art festival that they have held here on Broadway, roughly north of Belmont to Hawthorne, I believe. There's roughly 150 artists out here. From what I understand, this is a juried art fair. And you'll find painting, sculpture, you'll find jewelry and more. We tried to concentrate as much as possible on Chicago artists, since this is Chicago Broadcasting Network, and we try to bring stories that are of interest to Chicago and about Chicagoans. So of course this is of interest to Chicagoans because it's an event that takes place here in Chicago. We took a few minutes to talk to several of the artists, which we will share with you. And just give you a quick overview of the event, which takes place over 2 days, so that you can get an idea if this is something that you might want to attend next year.
Lee Galusha, she's an origami artist, and she does things in a 3D. As you can see, these are butterflies, and they're done but they're very geometrically accurate. And we do gradation color themes. We do butterflies, dragonflies, and peacocks is our main focus. And all of them, majority of what we do is in what we call shadow boxes. And this has evolved from just folding butterflies at home to, as you can see, what it's come to.
Like a yeah. You're doing it again.
Chicago artist. I've been making this kind of art for the past 10 years. I primarily make things out of beer-related items, so bottle caps, paper labels, cans. And so lately I've been doing more pet portraits out of beer labels and bottle caps. I also do larger bottle cap mosaics and some 3D sculptural objects out of bottle caps wired together. So this is showing the back of a three-dimensional bottle cap sculpture, showing how the individual caps are all wired together to create curvilinear three-dimensional spaces. So in a small tent environment like this, you can't see a bottle cap mosaic when you're up that close, so I have binoculars that people can look through backwards to see the mosaic as if they were 30-35 feet away. I'm online. I have an Etsy store, Drink Beer Make Art, and I'm on Instagram at Drink Beer Make Art.
So some of the food offerings here include the Brazilian Grill, which is at 3204 North Broadway. There's also the Urban Raji, offering obviously Indian food. And then I opted for a turkey and cheese crepe from Maison Marcel. And right next to them is the long-established and well-known Clark Street Dog, where Julie opted for the bratwurst.
Because I missed getting to the Lincoln Square Festival this year, so I missed my bratwurst.
We're washing this down with a beer from Dry Hop Brewery called Community Flashlight. And the first thing I'll say about this beer is that it's kind of foggy in color, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but it looks a little bit like swamp water. But the taste is pretty good, and it's got kind of a grapefruity flavor, I would say, which to me, whenever I say that, just means that it has sort of a bitter aftertaste with quite a bit of citrus overtones, but that pretty much explains the hoppy part of it.
I'm Tracy Burton. I'm located here in Chicago, and I create really beautifully colorful, functional pottery. I paint it all by hand or create it using different colors of glazes and colored slips and underglazes. I have bowls, mugs, little platters. I have Christmas ornaments even though it's September. And everything is individual and unique. There's nothing exactly alike. I work out of Lil Street Art Center at Ravenswood in Montrose. I do a lot of sgraffito and carving, which is where I got my business name, Scratchy Eye Studio. I create a lot of dust when I am carving away at the clay, and so that causes me to have some scratchy eyes. This is a beautiful example. I put the colored slip over the clay while it's still leather hard or it's slightly damp, and then I take specific little tools and carve away all the designs. Then I glaze and fire. You can find me at www.scratchyeyestudio.com.
I live in Andersonville. I don't have a car, so I find everything by bike. So I'm under tracks a lot, and I'm in alleys with the back porches, and that's where I find everything. I take it back to the studio because they're big paintings. I do smaller ones in the field, and then use the color information back in the studio. And Chuck Myers at rcn.com.
I focus too much on the shirt.
That is looking east from Hollywood and Edgewater. So that's the painting.
We're located here in Lakeview at 2917 North Broadway. We serve a lot of local art, jewelry, metaphysical goods as well. Yeah, we're just supporting local artists, friends of ours, and sharing neat things we like with everybody else. Yeah, this is a conglomerate of different artists. So it's a collection of mostly local artists or Chicago-based artists that have moved since we started working with them. Yes, theinklingshop.com.
About 2 weeks.
My name is Scott Fishman. I live here in Chicago in the River North neighborhood. I've been a professional aerial and architectural photographer for 15 years. I love showing people unique perspectives on the city.
My name is Daniel J. Johnson. I'm a visual painter, oil painter. I'm at the Lakeview East Art Fair. I'm a local artist here in Chicago. I live north, up by Rogers Park. Born and raised here in Chicago, 51 years. Been painting for over 25 years, doing art fairs for about 10 years, maybe a little bit more. And I love just the grassroots of being out here with the people. I do surrealism and also do Americana, so you'll see a lot of African American references, historical references, and then I do my own surreal stuff, which range from something as simple as these paintings here and something as difficult as these two paintings here, which are some of my more popular works. I can't really pinpoint and say that some works better than the other. People gravitate actually towards everything, which is a good issue to have, good problem to have. You know, it's funny because people always ask me what inspires me, what artist inspires me. I can't say a particular artist inspires me. Of course, I love the old masters' work, you know, and that's kind of what that is an inspiration for me. But as an artist, you can actually be inspired by anything. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be one particular thing. It can be a song. It can be something you've seen. It can be a person walking by or something somebody said. It could be almost anything that can inspire you to, you know, paint a piece. For me, I do it because I get a good, I guess, response from the audience or public, if you will. So that's one of the things that inspire me to keep painting is people like my art, and so why would I stop painting if people like the art, you know? So So for instance, like these here, this is all the sand dance. This all started as a doodle on a napkin, actually. It was a sketch on a napkin. The first one I did, it was just kind of one I threw in the corner. Didn't really pay too much attention to it until my landlord kept, he came and he asked me about it because he kept doing work in the apartment around the building. And so he was just like, what are you going to do with this painting? Short story. He ended up giving me a couple of months rent for the painting, and so I kind of figured I had something. And so it's evolved from variations of several colors to now only 3 colors that I'm using. A very simple palette. It's the simplest work that I can actually do without actually having to think about it. And then I have even more complex work, as you can see, as you go around the booth. So I guess as a self-taught artist, my interests lie in more than one place, so that's why the work varies, and there's such a range from, I guess, simple to complex, if you will. I don't know how else to describe it. Of course, jazz is kind of a staple of my body of work. I've been doing jazz painting since I started. Actually, that was the first painting that I ever sold, was a jazz painting. It was on a piece of wood. Very naivete. But that was kind of, the other thing that gave me the bug to want to get out here and do more of this. But I paint a lot of the old jazz greats like most artists do. My twist, though, is contrast between black and white with a hint of color. And my series is called the Black Velvet series, specifically for that reason. So I've done, Dizzy, Miles, John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk. And it's a concentration of all the black and white, the piano, background, everything, and with just that pungent hint of color, which kind of really makes it pop. So just another style that I do, but also try to do more classical work, because as I mentioned before, I do really appreciate the old master style. I appreciate the essence of that quality of work, and so I try to emulate that in a way, not intentionally, but just following their guidelines as to what they've done to create the work. And so I try to follow the same pattern, not necessarily trying to paint what they paint, but paint what I'm interested in and what moves me. So you can find me at Daniel J. Johnson Gallery or www.danieljjohnsongallery.com. You can also find me on Instagram, or you can find me at your neighborhood art fair.